Hello, YouTubers, and welcome back to Go Figure Customs YouTube channel. I was enjoying videos of other people's collections recently when one of the videos suggested for me was the walkthrough of my own collection room. Uh, when I looked at the show notes, it said the video was made 5 years ago. So that was just on the heels of the pandemic kind of wrapping up, and a lot has changed in 5 years. Uh, what I collect, maybe not so much has changed as to what I collect. Uh, it actually has. And how I collect too. Um, because the walkthrough, and I'll put a link to that video in the show notes. Most of the stuff that I show in my walkthrough is carded or boxed figures. Um, One of the big things that I did in the last 5 years was my co-host on General Geekery and I um, did about 4 or 5 videos of me unboxing just endless amounts of carded and boxed figures. Um, One of the other big things that I did in the last 5 years is I spent a lot of time and effort hunting down um, figures for my G.I. Joe collection, specifically the specialty Vipers. I'm only missing a couple really rare and really expensive convention exclusive figures. I got rid of one of my flags, traded it for a bunch of other stuff. Um, and I went from, like I said, having most of my stuff carded and boxed to one big display of loose figures. I didn't have a lot of loose figures in that video. I was using Deltoff cases at that time. I still do have those Deltoff cases, but I don't have like my figure collection in those Deltoff cases for the most part. Unfortunately, my collection is in the basement here, and we have it's not a cement slab basement. It's basically plywood because of how the house was built over an old borite mine, so the ground settles, so they like their zoning laws that they had to come in and put in a sub basement. So I don't have a stable floor, um, like cement slab that would absorb vibrations. So Deltoff cases are like the worst thing ever for my collection. Um, Plus the lights in those things get those figures nice and warm. And then when you get nice and warm figures, then you get loose joints. And when you get loose joints, then you get just a big collection of dominoes. Um, but just kind of suggested by my co-host that it was time to do another walkthrough of the collection room again. I On the first video, I did a walkthrough of like the entire downstairs because a significant portion of my collection was in my customizing room too. Uh, One of the big things that's changed there is I use an airbrush on every custom now, and the particulates from that airbrush are just insane. And I had to move my collection out of that customizing room because it was just getting covered in paint particulates. Um, the other big thing that changed in there was I showed my custom figures, and like 90% of my customs were on cards. I carded my own customs. Um, I started running into problems with a few years back with first it started with ink running on the cards, so I had to switch how I was getting stuff printed. And then I started getting the glue that I was using to keep the blisters on the cards started to wear off. So blisters were starting to come off cards, And then on top of that, for whatever reason I still have not been able to determine, uh, a significant number of my cards started to warp. So I now only card specific figures, um, and have opened all of my most of my custom carded figures, and put up shelves to display those. Um, as much time and effort as I put into making those carded customs, I'm kind of happier to have my customs loose again, because it's really easy to find a particular custom when I'm looking for one, or want to take pictures of it, or want to show it off on the show, or just kind of want to play with it, or look and see how I made something. Um, I'm as cool as it was to see all those customs on custom cards. I'm kind of happier with how it having everything on shelves. And it was kind of the same reason I moved from mostly boxed and carded figures in my collection to having it all loose, is just accessibility. I really like being able to see what I have and pick it up at a moment's notice. Um, I say that, but it's a really big collection, and it's still really hard to find stuff, because there's some some organization to it, but not a lot. So it's still kind of tough to find figures now and again if I'm looking for one specific figure to see, number one, if I have it in the collection, or if we're talking about a specific character on General Geekery, and I'm like, I have that figure. Let me go grab that figure real quick. And then it's like, I know I have that figure, but I couldn't tell you where. Um, and we are going to kind of just look at all the shelves, and then just do a walk around. Um, most things have changed down here. But I was looking at some stuff, and there's stuff that has not changed, has not moved an inch in those 5 years. So without further ado, let's have a look at the collection room. Actually, before we get started on that, I'd want to throw in a couple of disclaimers. I had a couple disclaimers in my video the last time I did a walkthrough, and I saw somebody did some disclaimers similar to mine when I watched one of their walkthroughs. I do have a lot of interesting things in my collection. I don't collect anything for value. Value is so subjective. If it's in my collection, it's because I like it. There is probably stuff that would be considered rare. Again, I think rarity is very subjective and dependent on a lot of things, like climate of the market and stuff like that. So everything in my collection is here because I like it. It was something I had as a kid, or something I wanted as a kid, or something that I stumbled across as an adult that would have loved to have had as a kid. So those are kind of the major disclaimers. The other disclaimers that are this room is not, I said this in the last video too, the room is not where I would like it to be. It's still very much a work in progress. But for the most part, I think it's still good enough to do at least a little bit of a walkthrough. So without further ado, let's take a look at kind of stand back and look and see how big this wall of loose figures is. So it started off pretty much just as this wall here. And then I quickly realized that this was not going to be enough. So it expanded to the adjacent 3 walls. The top shelf starts off with the Iron Man 1 figures. So I used plastic shelves from Amazon, and then wooden risers, just 1-inch boards, and then it quickly moves into, most of this is still Iron Man 1 toys. Then as it jumps the wall, move into, I tried to get it like color coded. So it's just the Marvel Legends Iron Man figures on the top shelf here. Took somebody's suggestion, and like I said, it's color coded, so instead of just having them up there by like what year or when they were released or anything like that, it's more thematic. Some Build-A-Figures, Marvel Select figures, and then switches shelves to the other wall, and then we just go into like random 6-inch figures. My Marvel Legends stuff is up there, Star Wars, some 7-inch NECA Predator, like Arnold Schwarzenegger figures, a couple Marvel Masters of the Universe, Gamerverse Thanos, Masterpiece Soundwave. My Centurion is up there, Max Ray, a couple random McFarlane figures are up there. This shelf finishes off with Danny Ketch Ghost Rider and 6-inch Star Wars Black speeder bike. When I did the video last time, G.I. Joe Classified was just getting started. I think I had 2 figures at that point in time, maybe 3. Now, the Classified shelf is a little bigger. Okay, it's a lot bigger. And again, I just gotten the figures that I like. I'm not trying to, I'm definitely not a completist. Just getting the ones that I like. At some point in time, I'm hoping to go back and put LED lights underneath the shelves. This is kind of the more oversized accessory shelf, but it quickly transitions here to the other wall. And then that's pretty much just about all of the Classified G.I. Joes at the moment. And then we're transitioning into a couple of Marvel Legends figures that should be up on another shelf, but they don't want to behave. So they're here as punishment until I can find a better place for them. Some Valorverse stuff, again, mixed in with Marvel Legends figures that don't want to behave. So I've got the black figures and the Praetorians, and so again, some more Marvel Legends figures that don't want to stand up well on the shelves that they were on previously. And then Venom figures here. That's quite a bit more than was in the previous video. And more Marvel Legends figures. You can see how there's open spots on the shelf because some of the figures didn't want to stand where I wanted them to be. So the top 2 shelves are 6-inch figures, and the rest of them are pretty much designed for 4-inch figures. So this is my 4-inch Iron Man collection. Because when I was putting this all together, I figured I had way more 4-inch figures than I do 6-inch figures, which indeed is the case. But I am rapidly getting more 6-inch figures than I'd ever planned on, and I've run out of decent space for more 6-inch shelves, so I'm not quite sure how I'm gonna do that. But again, these are all 4-inch Iron Man figures from either the Marvel Universe line or the Iron Man 2 or the Iron Man 3 line. Again, tried to color code them, so, you know, here's all the different variations of the War Machine armor. And some of the bad guys. There's one of the prototype figures. And then I mentioned in my last video, I had some of my favorite Marvel Universe, 4-inch figures up in the Deltoff case, but I didn't have them all up. Now I've got room to put up all of my 4-inch Marvel figures. So I've got Marvel Universe in there, Captain America figures, and there's 3 tiers to this. So there's 3, I can get them 3 deep on the shelves for the 4-inch figures, where I only could get them 2 deep on the 6-inch figures. And you can see some interesting figures in there for sure. I don't think the Marvel Universe figures aged well. There's definitely some nice figures in there. Some that are hard to find. Some that are really kind of cool. And then some that are just like, man, they really just did not do a good job with that particular figure. And then move into Thor. So a mixture between Thor, the second movie figures, and Marvel Universe figures. And then transition into the Hasbro Indiana Jones figures. Which transitions to this shelf. To the Hiya Toys RoboCop figures. Some random 4-inch figures. There's a Metal Gear Solid figure in there. There's a couple boss fight figures. Some more boss fight stuff sitting in there. I really like those figures. And starting back at the far side again, this starts the Star Wars shelf. Unfortunately, you can see it's kind of dusty, and we're experiencing a bit of a heat wave. In the basement, it's not such a problem. At least normally it's not, but it has been this year, to the point where some of these guys are getting weak ankles, and if they're not getting weak ankles, then they're getting soft around the peg hole in the foot, and then they're falling off peg stands. So the Star Wars shelf started off with Sith stuff, and then kind of moved into Troopers, and it just depends on what row you're looking at. So there's definitely Troopers and Sith still kind of mixed in here. Some Clone Wars stuff. My Republic Commandos are over here. My Force Unleashed figures, which I absolutely love. And like I said, this is one of the reasons that I transitioned to these particular shelves, is there's a lot of figures in here that I just absolutely love for what they are. Those Force Unleashed figures were fantastic, and I just like being able to grab those off the shelf and play with those and take pictures with them and just have access to them where they were just not accessible previously. You can see why I kind of need some more lighting in here. So, Mandalorian stuff's on this shelf. Transitions into more Star Wars. This Star Wars shelf continues. More Mando stuff. Expanded universe. The Quarry figures are in this particular area. Some box sets that I opened are up in the back. Some of my Return of the Jedi stuff. Then we get some Jedis sitting here. And then just kind of transitions into random Star Wars figures that just got put up as I opened them or as they came out of the tackle boxes that I was keeping them in. And then as it progresses, it's just as I bought them. So the further we go down this particular line, I found these guys hiding in a tub somewhere so they didn't get put where I probably would have put them. But the further you get, then it's like see somebody's knocked over here. One of the Bad Batch guys is knocked over and he needs a figure stand. So we'll just set him down and fix him later. Yeah, I mean, it's hot enough that the guys are getting heat stroke down here. And then transition from Star Wars into Hyatt Toys G.I. Joe guys. Oh, is this somebody knocked over back there? Sure looks like it. Destro's knocked over. Yeah, see, it's really hard to keep everybody standing up. And then just random 4-inch figures. Boss fight stuff. You can see why I want more lighting down here. And then transitions into those Assassin's Creed figures. I didn't have those up last time. The DC Multiverse figures. Ghostbusters. Some Hyatt Toys stuff in there. Some boss fight stuff. Dime Novel Legends figure. More boss fight stuff. There's Black Hole figure. 4-inch Transformers. More boss fight stuff. Just kind of random 4-inch stuff on this shelf. This standalone shelf is just Hyatt Toys Predator stuff. With the exception of one of the Predators there is a Hot Toys Snap Kit 4-inch figure, which are not particularly easy to find. And then we transition into my G.I. Joe collection, which starts off with Cobra and some up front. We've got like Cobra Leadership. Second row starts Specialty Vipers, so the Alley Vipers are on this. And then the back row is looks like Black Major eels into regular eels. So I tried to keep all the Specialty Vipers, tried to keep everything kind of organized. It did okay because I had most of these figures when I got these shelves put up, but as the collection progressed, it got harder and harder to keep everything together. As you can see, because there's a Black Major eel just standing out in front of Dr. Mindbender for no particular reason. But if you look up behind him, we're still into the Alley Vipers. And then the eels behind him. So, I mean, it's tried to keep it thematic, tried to keep everybody together. And I was going to mention that one of the questions I get is this all my loose figures? No, it's not. I don't tend to have doubles on the shelf, although I say that and there's 3 Secto Vipers standing right there. There are a few doubles on the shelves, but for the most part, there are very few doubles on the shelves. Transitioned into kind of the Tail Vipers, Saw Vipers, Night Vipers, and Snow Troops in the back there. Again, lighting kind of sucks. Tail Viper version 2 there. And then transition to this shelf. So we've got Python Patrol, Toxo Vipers, more Snow Vipers, Snow Serpents, although there's a Flaming Moth Snow Serpent back up in there. I said pretty limited on doubles, but there's the 50th anniversary Heat Viper, which I just absolutely love that figure. So there's 3 of those guys sitting right there. Neo Vipers in back. That was a hell of a collection to put together because there are so many friggin' figures that are named Neo Viper. Laser Vipers up front. Astro Vipers, Range Vipers. Those Range Vipers that are actually Rock Vipers. Then the Imperial Guard for 4-pack. Well, it was in a 6-pack, but I have just the repainted Range Viper figures there. And then into kind of modern stuff. Everything's kind of color coded again. So there's a couple convention figures sitting right there, mixed in with just random stuff. Cobras. It's all Cobras. Specialty Vipers. Storm Shadow. Troopers. I mean, it's not as organized as I would like it to be. And I'll show you why here in a minute. But just random Cobra Troopers. Target, Annihilator. Losing the light back here in the corner. Bats. Iron Grenadier stuff. One of the reasons I don't like how this is set up is if you look in the very, very, very back there, there's a Ninja Viper. That's the Mail Away Ninja Viper. That is one of my Grail figures, and it is in a dark corner in the 3rd row. You would never know he was there. So, I mean, it's not a perfect setup by any stretch of the imagination. And then this part of the wall is still a work in progress. This is Joy Toy and Haya figures. Some of these guys don't stay on figure stands very well. The mechs. And then transitioning into some of the Eagle Force figures, along with Planet Green Valley, and some Acid Rain figures, Pocket of War figures. Which, like I said, I'm still kind of piecing this whole part of the wall together. My new Visionaries figures, well, I mean, new to me. They're 40-year-old figures, but they're almost 40-year-old figures. They'll be 40 next year, because I think they came out in 2000 or in 87. And then just some random 1/18th scale 4-inch figures. So some Japanese import stuff. Hellboy stuff is in here. Halo. My Army of Darkness figure collection is here. I have most of the Army of Darkness figures. I am missing the Wave 2 figures that were really, really hard to get a hold of. And then some video game stuff. Then back to more Cobra figures. So we've got Cobra Troopers, we've got Firefly, Zartan, Specialty Vipers. And then transition around. And that pretty much completes the Cobra aspect of my G.I. Joe collection. And then we move into the G.I. Joe stuff. And this is all just, there's no rhyme or reason to this. I tried to keep all the characters together because you can see my straight arm V1 Snake Eyes right there in the center. So at least one of my Grail figures is prominently, sort of prominently displayed. I mean, if you stand back and look at the wall, you wouldn't pick him out, obviously. But when you start getting in deep and looking at stuff, then you can say, hey, that's a V1 Snake Eyes there. Like Black Major, Outback figures. So a lot of these figures were carded last time, like the Comic-Con Jinx figures and the club exclusive Jinx figures. Those were all on cards last time. So I decided to open those and get them on display. Transformer crossover figures. And then just more random G.I. Joe figures, which transitions into the Seekers, so the Rainmakers and the Coneheads and the regular ones. And then we go over to this other shelf, and it's the rest of the DC Multiverse in Batman figures, which took up 2 shelves. There's a lot of figures on this shelf. Those are actually fairly decent figures for Mattel in that particular scale. Then again, still kind of working on this particular area. Hot Toys and Joy Toy figures are Hiya Toys, not Hot Toys. Hiya Toys and Joy Toy figures are the figures that are primarily here. So the science fiction ones, the realistic military, the Navy SEALs. That's what all is in this particular area here, which transitions into my Green Lantern figures. So the nice the nice convention exclusive figures, and then some other DC figures are over here. And then back over to the bottom shelf and more Cobra Troopers, Cobra Leadership. So you can see it's kind of organized, but it's kind of not. It just depends on how you look at it. There's some convention exclusive stuff in there, some Super 7 stuff, club exclusive figures, Super 7 stuff. There's my SH Figuarts Hulkbuster. And then back there is pretty much all of those are the new Super 7 figures. And then transitions into my McFarlane Halo figures. And then Back up in there is where I've got my Warhammer 40K figures. I'm not collecting those so much anymore. That got to be a real expensive habit. I was just collecting Blood Angels, and then I was just collecting the Blood Angels figures that I liked, and it still got to be too expensive. Behind the Punisher mech there. So that's probably about as much of the Warhammer 40K stuff that I'm going to get. And then back over there's the rest of the Seekers. And then one of my Golden Army figures. I finally found my second one. I've been missing one. I have two of them, and I was missing one for a long time, but I finally found him. And then back over there are my Bio Vipers and Monstro Viper, and then the two like Mosspedia G.I. Joe. I don't even remember what the name of that bike was. And then up front here, this is where things get kind of frustrating. So these two shelves here, this is my new favorite toy line. And this is my Operation Monster Force figures. Currently, there's one figure that's not on this shelf. He's in the other room, but I have all of the Monster Force figures. I am a completist when it comes to those. And then a couple of the like 7-inch Dungeons and Dragons figures based on figures I had when I was a kid. And then some Four Horsemen figures. Definitely kind of a new guilty pleasure. I'm not buying a whole lot of them, but there's a lot of cool figures. So every time I find something that's super cool, super cool, I've picked it up. And then the Punisher mech. So this is a nice shelf for oversized figures that don't fit anywhere else, like my Dreadnought for the Blood Angels for Warhammer 40K, and then my Witcher figures. It's the 7-inch McFarlane Witcher figures. So I got all of these figures, all these Witcher figures, as a lot off of eBay for about 50 bucks. I was doing research for a custom and came across this lot, and it was like 10 figures for 50 bucks. I'm like, I can't pass that up. So I got it. The classified Treble Bubble with the gridiron legs, snake armor, and then my Build-A-Figure MODOK. And that is pretty much the loose collection. We'll look at the boxes underneath it here real quick too. All right, kind of an overview of the boxes on underneath the loose figures then. Most of these are just empty boxes at this point in time. So all of the HasLab Sky Striker, then all of the G.I. Joe Transformer crossover sets, both the Hasbro exclusive ones, which are on the top, and then the Comic-Con exclusive ones, which are on the bottom. Convention exclusive sets there with the multiverse that has the Transformers and Visionaries and Micronauts, and finally got the Transformers Ninja Force crossover set that I've been wanting to get that one for a long time. The Indiana Jones box set, just kind of random stuff sitting on the floor right now. One of the Four Horsemen Trolls and Loose Battle Rancor. The boxed Operation Monster Force stuff there is actually the convention exclusives that I put back into the original box. So I've got doubles of most of the convention exclusive figures, so I put them in the box for the original figures. Just kind of a interesting way to display those. I just don't have a way to display the boxes right now. Everything, like I said, still kind of all a work in progress. Doctor Who box set, the box for my Comic-Con Bruticus, a couple of big dinosaurs from Jurassic Park, and then some of these boxes have stuff in them, some of them don't. The Marvel Legends Daredevil was a Comic-Con exclusive, so I left it in the box. The gold box with the Cobra sigil on it is the Hiya Toys Pimp Daddy Destro figure. It was a convention exclusive to like Taiwan, I think, someplace far east. So it was not easy to get a hold of one of those. Dr. Mindbender, still in the box. The Extensive Enterprises suitcase set with the twins and the Baroness, that's still in the box. But like the Ghostbusters figures are not in the box anymore. The Masters, or the Dungeons and Dragons War Duke, I've got that loose now. But those Iron Man figures are still in the box. But the Four Horsemen, Frankenstein isn't. Baroness, Cobra Island Baroness. I really like how it looks in the box, and it was really hard to find, so I just left it in there. Monmouth the Gale, I have, that's actually my fourth one of those. I had two other ones, and both of them, none of the figures stand very well, and both of them broke, so I had to replace it, and I decided instead of opening this, I'm just going to keep it on the card. I do have a variant version of it that is loose. I'll show that to you here in a minute. Battle Rancor still in the box. Witcher set. Again, that came with the Witcher figures that I got as a lot recently. I was going to open it because I really, really like those figures, but it's a limited edition set, like less than 10,000, kind of limited. So it looks cool and it's limited. I'm not keeping it for like monetary reasons, but just kind of the principle of the thing. I'm just leaving it in there. A few G.I. Joe Classified figures that some of my favorite figures still in the boxes. The Ghost Viper, there's probably a Night Viper in there. There's probably a Alley Viper in there. There's probably a Frag Viper. The AT-ATE is still boxed. The empty boxes from my Robo Skulls are there. And this is what we got going on for the flag at the moment. This is definitely a work in progress. I put both of my, those are not vintage Tomahawks. Those are the updated ones. But that is the HasLab Sky Striker there. And then two Robo Skulls. So the one hanging from the ceiling is the standard one, and then the one on the flight stand is the Kickstarter exclusive. Just random figures sitting here for right now until I figure out what I want to do with them. There's a Warhammer figure that doesn't go with any other. He's just kind of by himself. I don't have any of the other figures from that chapter, so I think I have one other figure, but it's not a Blood Angel, so I don't know what to do with him. There's the other Golden Army figure that I had been missing for the last couple of years. He turned up finally. And then all of my Eagle Force, Monster Force, and just kind of that thematic. Skeletron figures are kind of gathered there on the deck, and then just random ass shit. There's my other Monoth the Gale figure. He's looking a little yellow these days instead of translucent. May have to see if I can get a carded version of him that's not yellow. I'm pretty sure that Batman's bootleg, but I don't care. I absolutely love that, how that figure looks. He's got a Bataranger in here somewhere. I saw. I don't know where it went. The Rhino Alien. That's probably one of the coolest figures I've ever bought. But I don't have any of the other NECA figures that go from that series, so I don't have anything else to display him with. So here he sits on the deck of the flag. And then we have the Transformer crossover. So the Megatron Hiss, the Soundwave Thunder Machine, Cup, Triple T, and Bumblebee Ostriker, and then the figures that came with them. And then, of course, my co-host's favorite vehicle, the Shark, or the Night Shark, actually. And then underneath the flag, kind of hard to tell, but crossbow, Scarlet's crossbow, is just a bunch of drawers. So extra parts. All my Transformers are under there. Most of my Transformers are under there. Just some nice storage that's out of the way. Like I said, it's the flag's just kind of a clearinghouse right now. It's not what I want to have as a display on the flag, and I don't actually know what I want to display on my flag, but that's what it's getting used for at the moment. And then we're gonna kind of move away from the flag and go over to this wall here, and this wall has not changed since the last video. Well, I say that there is one figure I did take off my custom. I had a custom up here, and I took him off and moved him into the customizing room. But this is kind of my Gestalt shelf. There's a bootleg Transformer that I found in Ukraine, and then some of my carded Iron Man stuff behind there. There's two figures from the Silver Centurion that's not the Silver Centurion, and then the War Machine that's not the War Machine from the Iron Man 1 line. Marvel Legends Showdown Iron Man figure. This is kind of the first highly articulated 4-inch Iron Man figure. Just a random Marvel Select figure. I don't know why that's still carded. I might have two of those for some reason. I'm not a real big fan of the Marvel Select figures. A Toy Biz Iron Man figure that's, I don't know why it's on this wall. Should be on another wall. And then a carded Marvel Legends Iron Man figure. I think my co-host JD got that for me. TFC Devastator, TFC Superion, third-party Bruticus. That's the Battle for Cybertron San Diego Comic-Con exclusive Bruticus, and then another third-party Bruticus that is probably the coolest Bruticus that has ever been made. Well, I say that, but there's one that they used. They upscaled these parts and made a Bruticus that I think's like 2 or 3 times bigger than this, and this is a big boy. So that's probably the coolest Bruticus that's ever been made. But this is what I got. And then I am a sucker for gimmicky packaging, and that is the San Diego Comic-Con Dark Energon Cliff Jumper. So what's really kind of cool about that is the head has the figure in it,
And if you set it on top, take it out of the box and set it on the box is supposed to be his torso. So it's the head and torso from Cliffjumper, which is pretty cool. This hasn't changed. This is the Marvel Legends Iron Man figure. That was the armor that was in the comic books when I got into it. This is my first Iron Man comic book. It's not the one I had as a kid. And then a print of the cover from issue 150. And both of those are autographed by Bob Layton himself, which is super awesome. And then back up to take a look down here. This is where my Defiant ended up. Moved it out of the customizing room. Boxed Seacon set. I got that super cheap off of Big Bad Toy Store a number of years ago. I haven't found a place where I want to hang my lightsaber yet. It's the replica Darth Vader lightsaber I won in a customizing contest. My general. Just some random boxed Star Wars stuff sitting in the back there. My masterpiece, Thundercracker, is back there. This is kind of the work in progress area, unfortunately. Just kind of sitting on the floor is more storage. My wife's BB-8. The big Millennium Falcon, my loose ATTE. I'm in the process of putting my Nitro Riders in one of the Deltoff cases, so that's why they're sitting on the floor. And some of the boxes fell off the top of my display, which is annoying. And then this is what I ended up doing with my Deltoff cases. So there's just random boxed stuff that I didn't want to open, that I wanted to keep in the box. And I'll go over the vehicles hanging from the ceiling here in a minute. There's just random box stuff that I didn't want to open. So the boxes are on the top. And then stuff that would fit in the Deltoffs that I didn't want to open, that's what's in the Deltoffs. So we can take a closer look at some of this stuff. Try not to step on anything. So some Star Wars Black figures. The box from my Kai Interceptor. My Comic-Con exclusive Shadow box. Jeez, yeah, everything is just... This really needs a lot of work, unfortunately. Because my Jetfire just about took a dive. I'm pretty sure the Boba Fett is bootleg, but I don't really care. My Trick or Treat bucket, Iron Man. The Slurpee Cup. War Machine Slurpee Cup. The Iron Man one's here somewhere. I don't know where it is. No, it's in the Deltoff case. Joker Squad box set. The Icons Iron Man. The Iron Man that came with that big proton cannon a couple of years ago. I never took that out of the box. First 10 years, Hulkbuster with Hulk. Then behind that, and in front of that's the Toys R Us exclusive Iron Man 2 with the Nick Fury and the drones. San Diego Comic-Con exclusive Vamp and Night Landing. A Pez dispenser, Iron Man Pez dispenser. My Flash Gordon lunchbox that was made by Boss Fight, that is autographed by Sam Jones. Got to meet him at Comic-Con a few years ago. I just don't have a really good way to display that right now. Just some random Iron Man stuff. That big old box in the back is a Hot Toys miniature Hall of Armor that I found at Comic-Con a couple of years ago, that I was able to talk the guys down on the price significantly. Got it on the last day. More random Iron Man figures. I think these are the Sentinel figures. I just don't have this all set up how I want it yet. The Black Widow bike pack. That was the last thing I bought at Toys R Us before they went out of business. Bought it specifically for that. This first Deltoff case, again, everything's a work in progress. This is the Loyal Subjects mask vehicles. So the Rhino, the Condor, and the Thunderhawk are on that shelf. I need to get some risers for them. I don't have risers that I like right now. The Seekers in sports car form. I kept those in the box because they don't transform like they're supposed to. Then the Switchblade, and then just empty boxes and an empty shelf. Iron Man stuff, coffee mugs, Hot Toys figures, random stuff that doesn't fit anywhere else. Some box stuff. That's my Hulk figure that's autographed by Lou Ferrigno. Emily's got a Doctor Who that's autographed in there. I bought the reissue that's Starscream in the back. It's not a vintage, but it was the reissue one that came out a couple years ago. Kind of the more exclusive figures. So there's an Old Man Logan figure, I think that's Age of Heroes Thor, and then World War II. So the gray shade Captain America, and then a Night Viper. This is all just kind of randomly put in here. There's also a Night Viper and a Techno Viper back there. So it's all just kind of mixed together right now. Oh no, that's World War II cap. The gray cap is down on the next shelf with Crystal Ball, a Punisher figure, the Combo Hulk, the box for the Zorro figures from Boss Fight, a couple of Frag Vipers, Saw Viper, the new retro Masters of the Universe Skeletor, most of my SH Figure Arts Iron Man figures, the Amazon exclusive figure set, more SH Figure Arts stuff. The Iron Man mechs are in there. Box sets. This is the unmasked box set that didn't get released, so that's pretty super rare and goes for a pretty penny nowadays. The Kmart exclusive set, Target set, a random Iron Man set, and then yeah, just the first 10 year sets from Marvel Legends with Iron Man that I just didn't open. War Machine, Infinity War, just stuff that I didn't really want to open. The Target exclusive Ultron, Age of Ultron set. Boxes. I don't think there's actually anything in those boxes. They're probably the Captain Rex box. Mail away is in there. The Visionaries box is in there. That is, I didn't open that. The Jedi Librarian box set from Entertainment Earth. The Evolutions packs are in there. And that's pretty much what's in the Deltoff cases. Along the back wall is the Ronin from, that was a Japanese con exclusive that made it to the internet on Amazon, I think. I don't know. It was really weird. It was really easy to get a hold of. And I wasn't going to pass it up because I love that animated episode. And the figure was super cool, and the box is gimmicky, so I had to get one. Star Wars soap. One of my cousins gave that to me. The Anakin Skyfighter from the Clone Wars, or Anakin's fighter from the Clone Wars. The box set, my Blood Angels came in, and I think that's about all that we've looked at on over here. So if we move across the room from the Deltoff cases, I picked up a mobile command center recently. It's sitting there because it was underneath the loose figures against the wall, and there was an accident. And a bunch of guys jumped onto the command center, so a bunch of parts fell off. So I'm trying to figure out what needs to be, and it's missing a couple pieces too. So trying to figure out what parts are missing, what, if anything, broke, and where to put it, where it'll be safe. So it's off the floor for the moment. Iron Man cross-stitch piece that my mom did for me. She got it framed. Unfortunately, the frame is falling apart. So that's why it's not on the wall right now, is I'm worried that if I put it up, it will break. I don't really want to destroy something my mom made for me. And then these are the original Toy Biz Iron Man figures from the animated series. And those are all of the Iron Man. And there's a couple of them that are on different cards. So like the Overpowered, and then the one with the Fantastic Four and the Amazing Heroes. So there's a few of those Toy Biz figures that made it onto different cards, and I'm slowly putting that collection together. They're not too hard to find, and you can usually get them fairly cheap. There's one I'm watching right now, but it's a little more than I want to pay for it at the moment. So I'm waiting to see if it'll go down in price. Next wall over, this wall hasn't changed. This is our autographed figure collection. So we've got this. I haven't moved any of this stuff since the last video. So Wesley Crusher, autographed by Will Wheaton. Riker, autographed by Frakes. Data, autographed by Brett Spiner. William Shatner, autographed that one for me. Well, I say I haven't moved stuff. I did move. I just kind of consolidated. So there's my Roddy Piper figure, autographed to me. Beverly Crusher. Emily got that autographed actually just a couple years ago. So that is actually fairly new. LeVar Burton autographed that for Emily, and then Emily's prized possession, her favorite character, Lieutenant Barclay, autographed by Dwight Schultz. Worf autographed that one. That one's actually, I don't think was there last time either. She met Q and had him autograph that, and he is just a delight to talk to. And then 2 of the Doctors have autographed that, the 6th and 7th Doctors. And Sergeant Slaughter autographed the Sergeant Slaughter figure. Bruce Campbell autographed that starting lineup figure. There's a story behind that. The original Starbuck autographed that figure for me. And then Denise Crosby autographed that one for Emily. We met her at a real small convention a couple of years ago. Unfortunately, they didn't have that convention again because it was a fun convention to go to. But I think the only figure that she doesn't have autographed by the Next Generation crew is Troy. And that was the one year she decided not to go to one of the conventions. So I don't know that we'll. Oh, and Patrick Stewart. She doesn't have a Patrick Stewart figure. I don't think we'll see him at a convention anytime soon either. These are my autographed figures, so that's one of my gems right there is John Barenthal, Punisher. Unfortunately, I didn't get to meet him. Emily got that autograph for me. Timothy Zahn autographed this comic pack. I won that at a charity auction a number of years ago. And then just some more autographed figures there. Darth Vader by David Prowse. Ian autographed the Palpatine. Jeremy Bullock autographed the Boba Fett. My cousin got Billy D. Williams to autograph the Lando for me, which is, I had him do the unproduced. So this was the unproduced line that came out in the Vintage collection a number of years ago. So it's kind of cool that it's on the unproduced figure. And then my very first autographed figure by Jeremy Bullock. And then Alea Sakura and Chewbacca. And I got to meet Peter Mayhew, who was just amazing to chat with, and his wife when I got that autographed. And then the carded stuff that I didn't end up opening, this is where it all ended up. I put up some pegboard and got J hooks and everything that's still on a card that I didn't want to open. This is where it's at. So I've got like a set of the McQuarrie figures, McQuarrie 30th anniversary figures up there. My Real American Hero figures that are still on the card. Some G.I. Joe Collectors Club figures that are still on the card. Extra High Toys figures. My Longbow figure. Pimp Daddy Destro. I mean, it's kind of cool because it has a toy store vibe to it. But at the same time, you really can't see what's on there. And there is some really cool stuff hidden in there. It's just, I don't have the wall space to display it anymore because the wall space is getting taken up by the loose figure collection. And I don't want to move it into the other room because of the airbrush. So, and then the 20th anniversary figures that I still have on the card. There's nothing real spectacular or impressive in there. It's just extra stuff that I have. Super 7 figures. I mean, there are some pretty interesting and semi-collectible figures in there. It's just really hard to tell. And this post has my first 3 Marvel Legends figures. Well, not my first 3, but the first 3. So Series 1 Iron Man. Judging by the yellow blister, that is the gold chase variant. There's the regular version, and then the stealth chase variant. And then the homage figure they did a couple of years ago to go with it. On this side, we've got the kind of the 5 points of articulation figures from Marvel Legends. So the stealth and then the regular one. And then I was able to finally get a carded Secret Wars Iron Man. I had that figure when I was a kid. A buddy of mine gave me his. The blister is pretty yellowed. It's hard to tell, but man, I'm super happy to have that carded in my collection because it's really hard to get that Iron Man figure loose without the paint being scraped away from his chest unibeam. And then the homage figure to that, the Marvel Legends homage figure, I decided just to leave it on the card. And then just the Capcom figures carded still. And then on this one is the translucent Spartan from Halo. I'm not sure what's missing there. I'll have to go back and look. I think there should be another Halo figure, but I don't know where that's at. And then Vision, the translucent one, and the regular one carded. Oh no, translucent one, and then the Doctor Strange and Doctor Strange translucent figure loose. I'm a sucker for translucent figures, so that's why those are still carded. And this is how I've ended up displaying my vehicles. The TIE fighters are all hanging from the ceiling. They're facing the other way, so it looks better when you're looking at it from the other side to see the TIE fighters. But this is my vehicle storage. So, got the classified Stinger, Sharks, Shark 9000, and the Shark, Thunderclap, Hammerhead. It doesn't look like it here, but the last time I showed it, it was dirty. It's dirty again. I did end up restoring it, so it was clean, has new stickers. Now it's dirty again. Rat, the classified Python Patrol Trouble Bubble, Captain America vehicle, 89 Batmobile, the next to the Ecto-1, so I didn't really have a place to put the armor, so it's got to go on top of it. Paralyzer, it's not complete, it needs a few pieces. Manta Ray, my Killer Whale, I did end up, this was in a bunch of pieces last time I did the video. I did end up restoring it, got new stickers. Again, it's dusty, unfortunately. That is one thing I wish I could take care of, is getting the dust out of here. Moray, again, restored, dusty again. The vehicle from the G.I. Joe movie, I don't actually remember the name of it. The 4-inch scale Warthog, 20th anniversary Vamp, Persuader, the Desert Awstriker. Is that, which version is that? That is the 25th anniversary Snowcat. The Demon and the Despoiler, again, spent a lot of time restoring those, got them looking really pretty, and they're dusty. I really hate that. The name of the vehicle escapes me at the moment. And then the Piranha, that was complete, and then I dropped it, and all of the depth charges and missiles and guns fell off and went everywhere. So it was complete at one point in time, now it's not. Luckily, it's not a hard vehicle to get stuff for, so I just haven't taken the time to replace the stuff that got lost. My Maggot. I didn't have that as a kid. A bunch of these vehicles I got in trade for my flag. This is one of those vehicles. The Avalanche, I had that last time. The 25th Armadillo, the Cobra classified missile launcher, the mech for Acid Rain, the Raider, the repaint of the Rage, and 2 of the 25th anniversary Rams, the 25th anniversary 25th anniversary Water Moccasin, I think that's the vintage Snow Wolf, or the vintage Wolf. The Joy Toy SUV thing that's a blast to play with. My flashes, camera flash. Then that's the 25th version. I think that's the 25th anniversary version of the Wolf with the Ostriker. Vintage Bug, that's complete. It was restored again, dirty. The Comic-Con exclusive Batmobile. The Joy Toy APC, Aliens APC. I absolutely love that vehicle. And unfortunately, it's dirty as fuck. Earthquake. Boy, that was a tough one to... I bought that one incomplete and like I'll just piece it together. And I did, but it took a long time. 25th anniversary Hiss, BBI, I think that's BBI, APC, the San Diego Comic-Con Shockwave Hiss tank with the 25th anniversary Air Chariot. And then we have the 25th anniversary Stinger with the retro Stinger that came out a couple years ago. 25th anniversary Skyhawk with a vintage Snowcat that is just dead mint. I mean, the white on that is phenomenal. I got it from a friend of a friend that had it was his from childhood, and he just took really good care of his stuff. The Soundwave Hiss tank with a Hiss 2 classified Ferret, the bootleg Russian, gosh, I don't remember the name of the vehicle. I don't remember the name of that vehicle either. Good Lord, getting old. APC, that is one of the convention exclusive Transformer, that's Hound. It's Vamp, but it's Hound. Another APC 25th anniversary Vamp Mark II. Another Shockwave Hiss tank, the 25th anniversary Arctic Hiss. Rogue One tank, and my Buster, and then an open spot. And just rolling on the floor here is my wife's Ninja Turtle van from the Playmates line, which was out a number of years ago now. And that is where all my vehicles ended up. Well, I say that's where all my vehicles ended up, but the vehicles that didn't end up there are all airborne vehicles. So I've got my Little Bird with the guys fast roping right here. Probably going to move that over the flag at some point in time so they can fast rope onto the deck of the flag. My Primark for my Blood Angels for Warhammer. House of M Iron Man that will not stay up at all. So he bought himself some fishing line to hang from the ceiling. Metallic paint Spider-Man from the Spider-Man 3 figure. I should have shown you some other figures on the post. Oh well. The Dragons belongs to my wife. And then Falcon, Toys R Us exclusive figure. He's facing the wrong way. Need to fix that. We'll get to that. And then, what else do we got here? Vintage Night Raven. Again, restored. Now dirty. It's not as bad as some of the other stuff down here. And man, it came out nice. The restoration was just beautiful on this. The Despoiler from Classified. Got that for my birthday this year. The BBI Apache. Oh, that thing's a beast. I love that thing. 89 Batwing. My custom, the Bat. Even though it's a custom, it's out here. Why? I don't know. And then hanging from the ceiling, up front, we've got Anakin's Clone Fighters, or Anakin's specific, and Darth Vader's Clone Fighter. E-Wing. And then various TIE Fighters. The red one is one of my customs again. TIE Interceptor, that's a custom actually too. And then the TIE Bomber. And then the figures that I was still carded over here, I just haven't moved them. Anti-Venom. Metallic paint Venom from Iron Man, or from Spider-Man 3. And then the Marvel Legends Showdown Venom, and then the 5.0 articulation Venom. And then in the other part of the room, in the big open area, which is kind of cool. Right now my light box is on the table, and then this table is my wife's table for this puzzle that she's putting together. It's a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles puzzle that's probably going to be as big as this piece of plywood that you see sitting in front of you. Apparently it's a huge puzzle. There might be an inch on either side, but I cut this piece of plywood specifically so she could put this puzzle together. It's gonna be huge. I'm trying to talk her into gluing it all together and getting it framed when she's done, but she's not on board with that, so that's probably not going to happen. And then hanging from the ceiling, my custom Stealth Condor. There's a BBI Blackhawk, the Sand Snake, which is a repaint of the Rise of Cobra Night Raven. Stellar Stiletto, San Diego Comic-Con Jetfire on the Sky Striker body. There's another nice picture of the BBI helicopter. It's dusty as fuck. I got guys fast roping out of that too. My Mamba's up there. The San Diego Comic-Con Starscream on the Sky Striker body. This was not restored in the last video, so it was still in need of some parts. The Condor, I finally got that, all the pieces I needed for that together and got it restored. Again, it's dirty. Gosh, is that the Retaliator? I don't remember. This is one of the vehicles that I got as part of my trade for my flag. Let's come at this from the other way. We're just going to be blinded by the lights here. That is a vintage Sky Striker. Looks like the missiles are not on it at the moment. I restored that. It was beat to hell when I got it, and then I spent a couple months restoring it, and it came out so nice. Power Glide on the Rattler. That was a Comic-Con exclusive figure. I don't actually remember the name of these planes. And the black one's custom anyway. The Black Dragon VTOL is there. And then my 2 Republic gunships. So I've got just the standard one and then the Clone Wars Shark Mouth. And that is kind of the Air Force there. And then we're just kind of back to where the Deltov cases are, where the General and Shuttle Complex lives. There's the Gestalt Transformers. There's a Chap May Apache Longbow down there, and then the 21st Century Cobra gunship. Unfortunately, that Cobra gunship has seen better days. It's fallen from the ceiling a couple of times. I'm surprised it's in as good of shape as it is. And then we're back over to where the flag lives. The one thing I missed on this was the Trypticon that my wife got me last year. It really doesn't do justice how big this thing is. It's massive. It looks tiny on the screen while I'm filming this, but man, that thing's huge. And then you can kind of see how really big the display is from back here of loose figures. And no, I don't know how many figures are on that wall or are in that display. It's a lot. Because the 6-inch figures are 2 deep, and then the 4-inch figures are 3 deep on just about every shelf. So there's a lot of figures on that. And then just kind of back to the box sets. And then you can see where the wall is, where all my carded stuff is. Again, I'm still kind of looking for a better way to display those, but for the moment it works. And then puts in perspective where our autographed figures are. And then we got a nice little love seat here that will sit myself, the wife, and 2 dogs, even though we have 3. But that's what the sheepskin is for. So the 3rd dog can lay there. And that pile of junk there is a box of figure stands, because I always need figure stands because I'm always getting new figures. The new Transformers Combaticons still boxed. I'm waiting for them all to get released before I open them and put them all to play with them and put them into Bruticus. And then the infamous Fuck It Bucket. That is 3 of 4 Fuck It Bucket. And what if you haven't watched General Geekery and don't know what a Fuck It Bucket is? Well, it's pretty much impossible to have every accessory for every one of these figures be displayed with that particular figure. A lot of these figures have extra hands or flame effects or weapons that they can't hold or extra heads. And some of those, especially like the Monster Force figures, they have a ton of extra gear that just is so you can swap them out and make different figures with them. and it's not really designed to be displayed that way. So for that, I put all of those accessories in the Plano tackle boxes, and I call it the fuck it bucket. Because fuck it, I'm not going to lose it, but it can't be displayed with the figures at the same time. And that's pretty much it for the collection room. Let's take a quick look and I'll show you how I've updated my customizing room. So the customizing room, we're just going to look at part of it because it's a disaster. The rest of it's a disaster. So starting at the top, I've got my Fallout Power Armor figures. I've still got those carded. Up here is my Flaming Moth custom set with some of my original characters in it. One of my carded 3-packs. These are my Dark Knight trilogy customs. I say that, but there's the Joker from Suicide Squad. Unfortunately, Bane's taken a nap, and so is Catwoman. Unfortunately, we're experiencing a heat wave, so a lot of my figures are getting loose ankles and they're falling over. Another one of my 3-packs carded. This is my Punisher shelf. My Marvel customs, more Marvel customs. My Pirate Deadpool, again, taking a nap because it's so hot that he keeps falling off the shelf, or falling off his foot, keeps falling off. Sectaurs figure I made last year I think. My Lich King Dungeons and Dragons figure that I made. There are my prototype mechs from the Iron Man. Those are the prototype figures, and I customized those. Yes, I customized prototypes. And then my Iron Man customs. So all of these used to be carded, and a lot of them just started falling off the cards, or the cards started warping. So I said, fuck it, everything's coming off. So these are all Iron Man customs. And then these are, let's see, 4 Horsemen figure. I don't do 6-inch figure customs, but here's some 6-inch customs that I did. A Navy SEAL and a 4 Horsemen Vampire Knight. My Star Wars customs are on these shelves here. I saw a Star Wars custom out there while I was filming that I need to move in here. We'll have to do that later today. And then I decided to leave my Delta Squad and my Republic Commando custom carded. This is kind of the growing area here. These are all movie and TV show customs. There's not very much there right now because those are still on the card. So there are some custom, and then my custom Seekers are over there, and my custom Terradrome, my custom Wolverine Mark II, and then just random stuff that needs to be sorted through. But all of my movie and TV show customs are still carded. The blisters seem to be staying on, and the cards don't seem to be warping. I did take a few of them. You'll see a few of them that are missing. I did open a couple of them recently. Specifically, I wanted to open my Airwolf customs because I got the head to do Archangel. So yeah, that's movie customs. And then my box set that I designed for, here's my level 7 Batman figure. I don't know why that's sitting there, but this is my custom box set. I don't think I can open this one-handed, so we'll have to do this another day. And then my 4-inch Ghostbusters box set that I made. And then my custom challenge figures from our last Go Figure General Geekery Challenge are there. And then up top, my Night Force carded custom that I put together, and then some of my original concept Day of the Dead figures based on some art from a buddy of mine. Up here is just kind of random figures. There's some video game figures. It's just kind of random stuff until I figure out where I'm gonna put everything. The level 7 figures. My Predator box set. I love how that came out. I would like to open that, show that to you, but I can't do it one-handed, so I'll have to do it another time. The 2 classified customs that I've done, so version 2, LA Viper, and a Nanobat. I redid my SEAL Team box set, so that is the new box set for that. We'll look at those carded figures down there at the end of this. So below that, these are the female Specialty Viper customs. All of these are female versions of Specialty Vipers that I've done over the years. And like I said, I like this setup a lot better. I can pull stuff off, I can look at it, I can play with it, I can fix it. There's definitely times where I have a custom done and then I'm like, oh, I could have improved upon that, or I couldn't find a particular part for that custom when I made it. Now I can go back and update customs. She lost her, my Heat Viper lost her gun. Yeah. It's in the dog bed underneath. That's the heat because she was holding on to it yesterday. So as you can see, this is pretty extensive set of customs here. And then below that are my Cobra customs. So some of these are original concept. Some of these are obviously existing characters. But this is all the Cobra customs that I've done over the years. Not necessarily male, obviously, but if they're female, they're not a Specialty Viper, they go on this shelf. And then that drops down one more shelf for more customs. And then I've left myself plenty of room to expand on this. So the goal was to have a nice display, but to be able to grow into it, which I did not plan when I did my loose figure collection. So I kind of remedied that problem with this. These are autographed figures, customs. The Gender Bent Mutt is drawn by a friend of mine. She did the art for it, so I made a figure, and I met her at Comic-Con a couple of years ago, and she signed it for me. And then Jamie Tyndall autographed those two for me at Comic-Con a few years after that, or a few years before that, actually. Just above that are my G.I. Joe collection, or G.I. Joe customs. Joe Team customs. So anybody that's again, original concept or existing characters. Most of these are existing characters, though. One of my favorite things to do is update existing characters. So most of these are just updated figures. Yeah. Again, the box sets can be moved elsewhere, and then I've got plenty of room to expand into that shelf. So that is my current custom display, with the exception of this area over here. Let me move this lamp. It's one of the things, well, up here, those are my carded Sons of Anarchy figures. What's really cool about those is my wife said, with all the effort that I put into these customs, especially on the back, because I did water slide decals for the jackets, that you needed to be able to see those. So it's a window back custom. Window back card. And they're all like that. And they're a pain in the ass to do. And I do have, there's one more Piney. We'll go right here. I just haven't sat down to do it's a pain in the ass to make these cards. I have everything printed off, the figure's done. I just need to sit down and trim the card and put it all together. And then my autographed cards. My autographed customs. So that's me and Brendan Fraser with the figure from The Mummy. Michael Ironside with him from Top Gun. Michael Biehn from Terminator. Alan Tudyk from Resident Alien. Bruce Campbell from Army of Darkness. Adam Savage with one of his, I did a 2-pack of him. You can't really see it, but he's wearing a Savage Industries t-shirt on one figure, and then he did a cosplay of Iron Man Mark 1 for Comic-Con one year. So I did him in that. I made a 2-pack out of it. And then the figures that I don't have pictures of me with the people, Charlie Hunnam autographed this from Sons of Anarchy. And Brian Cummings was the voice of Dr. Mindbender. He autographed that for me a number of years ago. Patrick Warburton autographed my Brock Sampson figure. The Ninth Doctor. I could have gotten him to autograph the Destro, but I went with the Ninth Doctor instead. Clark Gregg autographed my Agent Coulson figure. Then my wife got my Carl Weathers figure autographed for me. And then last but not least, Ron Perlman. Got him to autograph both my Sons of Anarchy and Hellboy figures. So that is definitely the pride of my customizing collection is my autographed customs that I have done myself. And I always get a lot of compliments from the actors when I show them something and tell them that I made that myself. So there you go. That is the customizing room. So there you go. That is a walkthrough of what I am currently just calling the collection room. And like I said, probably way too many times, that everything is down here is kind of a work in progress. I got some interesting advice from my mom recently, who said that I should probably never finish working on this room because it will always give me something to do. Um, and, you know, uh, especially coming from my mom, that's pretty profound advice. And I think I'm actually probably going to follow that. So I'm sorry I said that this is a work in progress like 50 times. But there you go. It's a work in progress. I hope you enjoyed seeing some of the things that I enjoy collecting. Do people have, and again, I mentioned that at the beginning of the video, do people have bigger collections than me? 100% they do. There's always somebody that has a bigger collection. Are there, and, value, I don't like to, I used to. I don't anymore. I don't like to assign a value to anything. Do I have some rare and valuable figures? Yes, but like kind of to highlight that fact is my GI Joe mail away Ninja Viper is so hidden that you wouldn't even know that I had one, just because that's where those figures ended up when I was putting them on the shelf. Um, I think the one thing that I really wish I had was carpentry skills that I could make like dedicated shelves the size that I wanted to, with like glass fronts, with doors that open and that were lit and wired for lighting and all of that. But that is not a skill I possess, nor tools that I possess. Um, so it's it's probably not the prettiest display that you've ever seen, but you kind of lose that do it yourself vibe when you start looking at the enormity of it, which is what I really enjoy, is just kind of sitting here and just looking at like how many figures that I have, and looking at each one, and as my memory fades over the years, the one thing that does kind of still remain is I can probably remember where I got each and every one of these action figures, and that there's a memory attached to each and every one of these figures. It's like, yeah, I got that off of eBay, or you know what, I got that off of eBay for a smoking deal, and I was so happy because I've been hunting that figure for a long time. Or my buddy JD gave me this figure, or I got this from a friend of a family friend, and this was his as a kid, and it's in my collection now. Or, man, I remember when this figure came out, and I had it as a kid, and man, I don't remember where I got this, but it just having this figure takes me back to when I had it originally. And there is some sort of memory attached to every piece in my collection. And to me, that's the important part now. So, as always, I hope you enjoyed watching. Please do that fun social media stuff. Like, share, subscribe, comment below, and stay tuned for future content, because I think I'm going to expand my solo stuff, and do some figure reviews on some of the more esoteric stuff in my collection, just cuz. So, as always, thanks for watching.